Welcome to our webinar today on NextTrack Analytics. My name is Kathy Barthelt, and I'm responsible for sales and marketing at Crossroads RMC, and I'll be the webinar moderator today. During today's webinar, we'll show you how you can better analyze the data you use to run your business. NextTrack Analytics allows you to take your data and configure it any way you'd like, all without touching your ERP system. Our presenters today are Lisa Bencic and Anthony Etzel from Crossroads RMC and Kathy Yager from Blonder Tongue. Lisa is a senior technical consultant and product manager with Crossroads RMC. Lisa's done extensive work on our data collection solution, web portals, analytics, and dashboard products and various ERP solutions. And Lisa brings over 20 years of development experience to the table. Anthony is a solution executive with Crossroads RMC. He works with iSeries customers on a daily basis to understand their manufacturing and operational challenges and deliver solutions and services to improve their businesses. Kathy Yager is the IT manager for Blonder Tongue. Blonder Tongue is a global communications equipment supplier for TV broadcasters and cable system operators. Blonder Tongue uses Infor-LX and is a brand new user of the Crossroads MES solution and NextTrack Analytics. Also on the phone today is Frank Petrazio, the director of our IBM Consulting Group, who will kick the session off for you by giving a brief overview of our company and our LX practice. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Frank to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Kathy, and welcome everyone. What we're going to do today is let me just cover the agenda as Kathy covered the introductions. We'll talk a little bit about the overview. I don't want to bore you with too much of that. I want to move right into the actual presentation that Lisa will provide. And then on the back side, we're going to open that up for questions. And Kathy's here from Blonder, so she can chime in. Again, they're a new user to this, and they're just getting their feet wet with it, but like what they see so far, and we thought we'd have her come to the call and add some value in that regard. We're going to move right into the overview. Just real quick, from Crossroads perspective, we've been around since 1984, 30 years experience plus in the manufacturing distribution vertical. Our staff is minimum 20 to 32 plus years experience with BPCS. We are an Infor partner from two fronts, the consulting services side and the solution provider for our MES solution. Our MES solution sits on their product list that their reps can sell direct. We have experienced all different versions of BPCS going back to the System 36, going back quite a few years. We have the largest practice in the U.S. today with offices based in Illinois and Wisconsin. Most of my team, I sit up in sunny Buffalo, New York, and my team is spread throughout the Northeast, if you will, from a home office perspective. We carry expertise in data collection, MES, and other ERP add-ons, which one of them you will see today. Like I said, real quick, our focus is basically we deal with manufacturers and distributors globally. A lot of them are Fortune 100 companies. What we do is our primary goal is to deliver a high-impact solution. We want to be on time and on budget. We do technical consulting, conversions, programming, modifications, EDI as well, along with training and education, and again, other software solutions to complement your ERP is what's tied to us. Okay? At this point, that's it for the commercial. I'm going to send it over to Lisa. She'll now get into the actual presentation that you're here to see. Thank you. Back to you,
Frank.
No problem.
I am going to share my screen. Let's see. Can everybody essentially see the product, the NextTrack Analytics?
Yes, you can maximize, yes. Please.
Well, when I open it up, it'll, we'll show you. So the connections and the queries are part of the administrative setup that people can do to connect your AS400 system, and I'll just show those very briefly. You know, I have a bunch of connections here, but you would have like a test and a production connection or your various different libraries that you connect to in your AS400 system. So you can see we connect to several other types of systems. But the connection configurator, you just kind of come in there and set up your connection once. The password is stored. We connect directly to the database. It is stored encrypted in its own area. And you can test the connections from this little screen here, essentially. But once you make your connections, you can use them in all of the queries. The queries are also something you can maintain. As Frank had indicated, we provide a base set of queries for you. So the ones that you see on your screen right now are provided by us, and we're adding new ones all the time. We have sales bookings, ARAP, planning, shop orders, CEA order bookings. I think I have some labor, and then some sales history, and then I have other systems, so you would just see ERPLX and all of the queries that go with your system. And what you can do here is you can add your own queries, or you can modify the existing queries. And I'll just open one up real quick and take a look at what they look like. We essentially, set up basically what it's going to take to form a query, which is give us your tables that are in the query, what fields you want to select, any joins and any where mappings. And those fields all go in to create a query, which from this screen you can go ahead and test. I'm going to test it off of our LX system. And so your admin is mostly, or your power users, whoever's familiar with queries, is going to go in here and, if they need to maintain queries, add fields for you. You don't need our consulting to add fields and create new queries. We're certainly happy to help you out and provide new ones all the time, but you don't require our services to do any of this product. So once you have a query, you can test it, see how quick it's going to run. That speed that I had there is how quick you're going to be able to see it on your viewers too. But that is essentially what the admin person can do. They can come in and create connections and generally create these queries for you. And then, you can share the queries between each other and all that fun stuff. But essentially, the queries are made to provide the data for the viewer. Okay, so the main piece that your users are going to be going into is the viewer itself. So the queries are nice. Here they are. When you send your information out to the users, for example, you can decide which queries they're going to receive. So, for example, your salespeople may just receive the sales queries. You don't have to give all these queries to everybody. So you can control who sees which piece of the data by what you send to them. So I will go ahead and open up the sales booking. And this is the viewer. The viewer essentially takes that query and runs it. It runs it really only once unless you go ahead and refresh it. So what you'll see is me moving around, dragging and dropping columns, creating chart options, and all of those things can happen without it requerying the database for the data. So it really only runs that query once, and it's not hitting the database every single time you make a manipulation in this grid. So essentially the screen contains a grid on the top and optionally a chart on the bottom that matches the grid. So in this example, I have a listing of our customers and the amounts that they, the sales amount for each month. Now the breakdown that I'm showing it by month, there's a lot of options. We can, we can change that so that we view it monthly or weekly or quarterly or even down to daily. So you can set the intervals that you want to look at up here. I have it set for monthly. And then on the bottom is the chart that refers to that data. Now the chart's going to contain anything I have highlighted. So for example, if I just want to individually look at March, I can highlight March. If I want to look at several months together, I can highlight them. The chart itself down here is a setting up here. We can have, what I'm showing you is a stacked bar chart. However, depending on how you want to view it, you can change this to many kinds of different types of charts. You have line charts and bar charts, and I'll show you some of them, how they look. But you control a lot of options on the chart. You control a lot of options on the grid, and you can drag and drop fields around. So what I'm going to show you is what we see right now is a view of your customers and all of the sales by month. But say, for example, I really want to see my sales by sales rep. I can take this and drag it out And if I drag it to the left, it's gone from the grid and the chart. And what I have on the left are all the fields from that query. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag salesperson back up there. And now what I have is that same data, but in a different view. And I now have a breakdown by salesperson instead of by customer. And again, it did not requery the data for that. It only did one query to the database for that. These layouts can get, as complicated or as simple as you want them. You can add additional breakdowns. So for example, if I want to know by salesperson and then also by item how much they're selling, I can drag that next to salesperson. Now I have a breakdown by item and the sales by item. Maybe I want to reverse that, and I would rather see the item and then the salesperson's, the people that are responsible for selling the item and how much they've sold in each quarter, in each month. So you can, manipulate all the fields that are up there, change the date intervals. You can also do a filtering. So, for example, if we here are showing all items and all of our salespeople, and basically everything that went into that, but I might want to, I have a couple fields up here called filter fields, but I might want to say, I'm not sure if we have, I don't have a lot of multiples here, but say, for example, there were some type of orders that were return orders, things like that. You can filter by what type of order you see the data in. So the end users can even control a lot of what the data is that they show by filtering it, various different filters. Okay, and again then, what we show on the chart down here is basically what we have on the grid and then what we have highlighted, okay? And again, you have a lot of control over those things. For example, if I would rather show a regular bar chart instead of what we're showing here, which is stacked bar, you can change the option, and I don't know if you saw it do that, but it flipped those on and off, and everything happens pretty quickly. You don't have to wait around until it regenerates too much. Let's just put that back to the stacked. But anything we change on there, happens, everything's happening fairly quickly. Now, once you do get a view that you really like and you want to save that so that when you come back in here, you can always access that view, under the layouts, we have the options to go ahead and save that layout. So for example, for this one, I have my sales by item and salesperson. So I might want to go ahead and save that and call it sales by item and salesperson. So once I do that, okay, it now becomes available to me here on my drop-down of layouts, so I can go to that layout anytime I want. And I can also then go to any of the previously saved layouts that I made. And another thing we do is provide some basic layouts for you, but you can and should, go ahead and create whatever views and layouts that you want to. So for example, I'm going to switch to the calculated amount by customer, and once again, it doesn't hit the database for that to requery. It just takes what it has and reconfigures it on your screen. So now we're showing the sales by customer. Okay. You might notice a few little features up on the grid itself. We have some formatting options on here. I showed you the date format. We can change that so we show it weekly or quarterly. I'll go ahead and show the quarterly. So now, just that simple. And once again, we're not requerying, we're just redisplaying. We switch it to a quarterly view of the data. I have some visual options on here for your field indicators. Sometimes this data can fill up screens and screens worth of information. You really want to pop things out. There's a couple options to do that. The top and bottom rules is a good one. I think that's what's on here now. I think I just turned that off. Put that back on. Yeah, there we go. What a top-bottom rule is, and you can imagine a whole screen full of data, is it's taking the top 10% of the items and it's coloring them green, and it's taking the top or the bottom 10% and it's coloring them red. Okay, so all those options are available for any of those views. And then of course we can come in. If we exit that and we want to go back, and we can view other types of data as well. So I'm going to pull open the labor ticket. You can, any of these. So when it does say finding data there, it is going ahead and running a query. So here's our hours worked. This one is by work center. This one I did bring up because I want to show you, the charts are an interesting piece, especially things like pie charts. They can get pretty busy. They're helpful for examining. For example, if you want to just highlight a month, we can compare, in this example, hours worked to produce, and we can see some interesting information. For example, in January, we worked a whole bunch, and I mean, we worked very little and we produced a whole lot of quantity. So our ratio in January was a lot different than our ratio over here in, the other 2016, because in this one we can see that we worked a lot of hours and we only produced a small amount of quantity. So pie charts can be very helpful, but they can also be very busy. A lot of it depends on the type of charts that you have. And a new thing that we have in here is you can, if you're looking more towards the data, you can turn the charts off altogether and just view this grid as data. So you don't have to have the chart if the chart's not making sense. Okay, so essentially those are the features. We can save the layouts. We can also then share these layouts. We can, by exporting them, we can send them to other users. So say you find a particularly helpful view, you can export that to your other users. We can print this. We can send it to Excel as well. If you do that, you just, it opens up Excel very nicely, and you get your Excel spreadsheet. It does do whatever you have highlighted. There's a lot of features on here that will pull the data that you have highlighted, so you can send just those pieces of the graph and the grid to people. You can also do all the Excel hotkeys. For example, if I hit Control A, I highlight everything. Anything that would be normal hotkeys, all available on these type of things. Another handy thing is, we're showing you hours worked for January here, for example, in this particular piece. If I double click on this number, what I do get is a full listing of all of the data that went into making up that number. So if there's any question like why is this negative, or why is this so big, if you double click on the numbers, you really get a drill down to all of the fields that we have in the query. So you can say, oh, well, that was this order number or whatever. So it's a very good tool for analyzing your data, really digging in, drilling down, drilling up, summarizing, graphing, all of those pieces, and then in the end you can print this and send it to other people.
Lisa, show us how easy it is to drag in the employee ID, employee number associated with the work center.
Sure. Well, so over here on the left are all the fields that I have available, and they have what we call the tag for them is the header field here. So I'm going to drag this. I'm going to put it next to the work center, and there's my breakdown. And again, no requerying. It did not hit the database to do that. Again, you can swap them around. You can add more. You can keep going on this. So I want to see this employee, what work centers they did. Heck, I want to see every labor ticket created. So you can go down to any level of breakdown that you really want to get to in here. Okay. Are there any general questions on this interface?
Feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question. You can also type it into the chat box if you'd like.
Well, I think one of the questions that some folks might have would be, gee, how difficult would this be to deploy over my version of BPCS or LX?
Well, the nice thing, thank you for asking, is that you set up your connection here. We have two separate connections here, two different versions, I guess. Is that what we want to call them, Tony? Libraries. And the queries are compatible with both versions, okay? So as long as the fields and the tables exist in that library, you can swap out the queries to different connections, no problem.
Lisa, this is Frank. I also want to interject another thought to that. If you're running a different version of BPCS, because we're demonstrating today 8.3.4, I believe, this could be retrofitted back down to version 6 easily. It also can go down to 405C. It had to be. The only thing is with 405, the whole general ledger is a little different, so that would have to be reconfigured. But the rest of it would just be a retrofit, but it is definitely scalable up and down.
Sure, it just really is a reader of those libraries. It's fairly generic. And if you, in addition, have your own custom tables and your own custom fields, we can access those as well.
Okay. Kathy B., I'd like to ask Kathy Yager if she wouldn't mind to just chime in a little bit and just, Kathy, wouldn't mind sharing your thoughts on how you guys are deploying this. And again, you're just in the infancy stages now, but if you wouldn't mind, please. Kathy, we lose you? You unmute? Kathy, did you get any other questions in the meantime? Anybody chat you?
Let me chime in for Kathy Yager for a second. They're our newest user of the tool. And the primary objective for them was to replace a lot of existing queries and SQLs and a variety of reports that have been written. So when they're migrating over to LX, they were able to minimize the amount of customizations utilizing this tool, giving them a larger degree of flexibility in creating views of data specific to the user and how they want to see it. And I believe that they were able to pick this up very quickly. As Frank said, they're in the infancy of it, and that's why we had asked Kathy to come on this call to share it with us as a new user, how easy it is to navigate around and replace existing reports and inquiries with this tool.
Lisa, question came in. What version of Excel are you using?
Well, I have the, I guess Office 2015 or 16 version, but it does export to either the older XLS or the XLSX file. So it will do either of those type.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Looks like another question is this used to replace the IBM query?
This could, and like Tony just said, and this is Frank, I'll take that one, I'm sorry. It could, and as Tony just mentioned how Blonder, they're trying to get rid of some of those queries and clean this up, because as customers or as users add more of those queries, it becomes more cumbersome when you want to upgrade. By using a tool like this, it keeps them encapsulated, and as far as the retrofitting and moving forward, if you will, it minimizes that level of effort. So it could be. Also allowing you the capabilities to do all the downloads like Lisa just showed you here to Excel and things like that. So if you want to slice and dice further, you can. But it allows you to do all that real time like she just demonstrated.
Yep. The last thing I want to mention, if we don't have any more questions, and that's fine, is just, the roadmap, what we're doing in the future and for next year, what we have planned. Is probably
Lisa,
go ahead.
Please, sorry to interrupt you. There is another question.
Go for it.
Question came in. Will it import existing queries established in existing libraries? Existing queries from the ERP system, or what? I'm not sure what your question is there.
Currently there's not an import of any fashion. So I will cut that off now because we do type them in our own format. But I actually didn't realize that there was some place where they store them. So if you want to, that's something we could look into because it's fairly standard the way we create them. We would be able to do that. But.
And just to elaborate down on that a little bit, I'm just thinking if you're referring to an AS400 query, the answer is no. But you can utilize this tool to replace that, okay? And what was shown today is just a baseline of applications here. You can go further into the database. You could reach further into different files, different systems, if you will, on the iSeries to pull all that together. And all the fields on the left there that Kathy is, at least it was showing you, for example, employee name and the drag and drops, those are configurable too. You can add more to those. There's a lot more fields in the files, as you all know. So we only grabbed what we thought was pertinent to this. And again, just a baseline product. Everyone will want something a little different. It's never going to be able to accommodate. It will never be able to accommodate what everybody wants. So we give a baseline, and then the user can take it from that point and enrich it as much as they wish.
The last thing I'm showing on the screen is really the things we're working on in 2018. We hope to have the web viewer version of this. So, currently right now we have it's a really nice drill down tool that does install on your PC that you can really manipulate and maintain the queries. And this is very good for power users and a lot of other people. But as far as, presenting reports or out of the can things for people maybe not so much to interact with, but to view and things like that, we have those same queries can be exported to our dashboard product now. And you can now create web pages where you get control of all of these pieces. I'm not going to go in, there's not time, but you have control of this just like in the other piece where you can design the layout, design which, if you want a grid here, a pie chart here. There's a lot of extensive functionality that's coming in 2018.
Great. Thank you, Lisa.
Yep, thank you guys.
Kathy said she's here.
Hello, can everybody hear me now?
Oh, yay.
I apologize.
So Kathy, thank you for joining us. If you could, as Frank said, we know that you're a new user of the product, but if you can just share your initial thoughts with it and what you intend to do with it, we would really appreciate that.
Yes, I've only installed it on a handful of computers so far. All the users have been happy. It's very easy to use. I hope to replace a lot of, as you said, my homegrown programs, my queries. I get asked to run a lot of queries on the fly. This is a real great tool to replace all of that. It puts the data right there. It's basically just a view. It's basically having query within Excel, and it's a view over your data that the user can run immediately.
Great.
Thank you. Any other questions from the group? We're at our time. We want to be respectful of everyone's time, but if you have any other questions, we'd be happy to address those at this point. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Again, we will make this recording of. Oh, how do we get this? Well, you can just contact Frank, and he'd be happy to address that with you, or Frank can get in touch with you as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Appreciate your time. And again, we will be making this recording available probably early to middle of next week, and we'll send it out to all the participants so that you can view it and share it with anyone within your organization. So thank you very much, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.